Thank you very much, Sync for Success of Philippines. And now, for the wellness moment, may we call on the trustee in charge for members and engagement wellness, Trustee Carmi De Leon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, PMAP. How are you? Looking good. Feeling great. Okay, let's have a little wellness moment here. Can we watch the video, please? All right. So you saw in the video on May 19, we will have Palarong Pinoy. So we're inviting all the companies to join us, send us your players, representatives, and let's have fun. Now, before anything else, can we ask everyone to stand up, please? A taste of Palarong Pinoy, but this time, it's going to be quick. We are going to swim, we're going to walk, we're going to run, we're going to do biking all at the same time. Is it okay? All right, I have my partner here, Mr. Rico, please, in the middle. All you have to do, Miss Lynn, please, table 2, please stand. Sitting is the new smoking. Let's all stand and keep moving. All right, so you just follow me, look at the projector, and we will have a little of dancing. Dancing promotes anti-aging, it tones muscle, so we all want that, right? As people managers, we need to keep our balance. So this is how we do things. Music, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 634th PMAP General Membership Meeting. Please rise for the invocation followed by the national anthem and the PMAP hymn. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. You may now be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our wonderful host for today's General Membership Meeting, Ms. Sarah M. MacLeod, the Executive Vice President of Q2 HR Solutions.
Good afternoon. Okay, I don't think I can follow the dancing there or being a bicycle or a swimming. Is this one better? No? Okay, there we go. I do have a slight script to follow because we do try and keep on time. And we do have lots of great speakers and panelists today, so I don't want to make sure I miss anyone. So, of course, today we know why we're here. We know why we're here this month. What are we celebrating? We're celebrating International Women's Month. Great women, and of which I see many in this audience. So I would like you to all stand up, and I'd like you to shake hands and say hello to someone that you don't know and tell them that they're a great woman. Come on, stand up, stand up. And for the gentlemen in the room, you can shake hands with the great women that are by you. Say hello to the great women in the room. So how great was that? Did you all meet someone that you've never met before? And how great is it that we have, 300, 200 great women in the room. So we're talking this month, emphasizing on women and equal employment and opportunities. And just in case you didn't know, back in last year, 2017 in November, through the World Economic Forum, the Philippines is the top one for gender equality in Asia. So the Philippines is leading the force for Asia. And in the World Global Forum, we're 10th place. The Philippines is 10th place when it comes to, and I can show you the Google for that so that that's not something I made up, it's true. So fearless women, there's been fearless women through the ages, starting way back with Cleopatra, what a fearless woman she was. Rosa Parks in America, who brought about the catatonic changes within the rights for the blacks in America. Florence Nightingale, who was a nurse, who really was a fearless woman. And then one of my favorites, Coco Chanel, because I feel if you can be like Coco Chanel. And she has a great quote, which I think resonates today as much as it did when she said it back in the late 50s. The most courageous act of a woman is still to think for yourself aloud. And I think with the Me Too's and the things that are happening in the world today, that is so true, that we have an obligation to ourselves and our children and our families and the next generation to not just think it, but to say it out loud so that we can be heard. So we have three main topics today: gender equality, the competitive advantage, and our main topic, leadership disrupted, creating innovation, and also overcoming fear. And I think that's something we, as women, and probably the men in the audience as well, we all sometimes have a fear to jump to the next step. Maybe we're not good enough. Maybe we're not qualified enough. So we're going to be discussing that fear and realizing your own strengths and the potential that you have, grit and the power of persistence. So we have some great speakers and we have great panelists. So please make sure you take note, put those phones away. You don't have to talk to the office this afternoon. They know you're here. Tell them you're busy finding out how to be a better and more powerful leader. So I'd like to mention also there are other activities this afternoon. As always, new members and members for regularization, and also launching of the PMAP's 55th annual conference. That's amazing in itself that that's the 55th. So first of all, before we start, I'd like to introduce on stage the PMAP president, Michelle C. Garcia, to open our 634th general membership meeting and deliver her report.
So I now officially open our general membership meeting for the month. Yeah. No, I don't usually go on stage. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our March General Membership Meeting. We have a lot of good topics for everyone, but please allow me to quickly update you on some of the things that your 2018 PMAP board has been busy with. This is not the full report. In April, we will be sharing our first quarter BOT report. But just to keep you all excited, we will soon be launching a new, what we call the PMAP brand identity. And we're hoping that come May, we will be able to present that to all of you. It's not just a new signage or a new logo, but it will come with it some new programs, exciting programs on how we can re-energize, on how we can implement our existing and realign our programs in PMAP relevant to current times. The other one that we are very happy to share with you is through the industry group committee, we have actually revived our industry group committee, and right now we have 17 industry groups in place, and they've been continuously meeting, and we're hoping that we will continue to provide services to the different industries within our association. The other one is we have also formed what we call the strategy committee. So this committee is currently finalizing the 5-year strategy of PMAP. Our intention here is for us to come up with a document, not just on paper, but something that will guide not only this year's board, but the board of the incoming years in the next 5 years. Our intent is to make PMAP future ready, and all of the things that we will be doing in the next 3 or 5 years will completely be aligned and will not be dependent on whoever is the leaders or members of the board of PMAP. The next one is, just this morning, we had our, what we call our collaboration meeting with our SOF and the Asian Institute of Human Resource Management. We're starting to discuss exciting things. Some of the words are the HR maturity model, and hopefully PMAP through our SOF and Asian Institute of Human Resource Management will be able to present that framework. Our intention is to tie all of our programs together so that our members like you will see the value of all of these initiatives from our association. The other one is we will soon be launching also a nationwide CSR program. What we intend to do is to engage our chapters. And right now we have 27 chapters nationwide. So we want to have an initiative that will make PMAP's presence felt not only through a simple single CSR initiative, but a nationwide initiative that we can all embrace as members. And lastly, we will soon be, well, the others you know already, our People Manager magazine is now on digital copy since January, and you can see previous copies and new copies online through your mobile at any point in time. All right, so those are just some of the few updates. In April, we will be sharing with you our Q1 BOT report for our members. All right, so today we celebrate women leaders of PMAP. And this afternoon, we're very, very honored, and I cannot let it pass that I will not recognize them because they are in the room. I'd like to give simple tribute and recognition to the women leaders of PMAP throughout the years. You know, ito interesting. When I was getting the list, I said, you know, PMAP has been in the world for the last 62 years. And somehow we have this perception that the HR profession is majority women. But did you know that in PMAP, there's only 7 past PMAP presidents who are women? And I'd like to mention their names because I think it's important for us to recognize their efforts, being a few of the very significant ladies of PMAP. Of course, we have our past president. She's not here today, but I still would like to recognize her. Past President Sol, past President Pilar, past President Chit, who is in the room. Pipi Chit, please stand up so that they can meet you. Yan, all right. We also have past President Grace Sata. I think she's not here at the moment. Past President Grace Sorongon. Past President Lucy Tariela. Si Pipi Lucy, when I joined PMAP, and maybe Pipi Lucy will recognize, when I joined PMAP, siya po yung president na nakaupo. So if you're trying to guess my age, si Pipi Lucy po ang nakaupo when I joined PMAP. And of course, we have our beloved late past president, Lina. So I just want to mention these names because I think it's very important that in PMAP, during this month that we're celebrating women leadership, that we also give our simple tribute to these women of PMAP who helped drive where PMAP is right now. So maraming salamat po, Pipi Lucy and Pipi Cheat, for helping drive our association to where it is today. So again, good morning and good afternoon and welcome to our GMM, and I hope you will enjoy topics today.
Thank you, Michelle. Big round of applause to our present female president, our present president. Okay, so before we introduce our next speaker, can we watch the video?
You are beautiful. You are smart. You are funny. You are kind. You are unique. You are worthy of love and affection. You are never too much, and you are always enough. You are precious. You are a diamond, a rose, a pearl, the most stunning of all God's creation. You are worth more than you could ever imagine. Worth more than the numbers on the scale, or the hair product you use, or the shoes you wear. More than how many girls wish they were you, or how many guys wish they had you. More than the price tags on your clothes, or the percentage at the top of your math test, or even the number of followers you have on Twitter. Your worth surpasses all earthly things, because in the eyes of the Lord God, you are loved, and you are worth dying for. Regardless of who you think you are. Whether you model in a magazine or you model pottery with grandma, whether you're on the hot list or the not list, whether you're head cheerleader or a high school dropout, whether you're Miss Popular or you've never had anyone you could call a friend, whether you love yourself and love your life, or you can't stand to look in the mirror and you feel as if everything in your life is falling apart, whether you're such a winner or you feel like the world's biggest failure, regardless of who you think you are, the reality is that you deserve someone who would give up their life for you, because you are powerful and strong and capable. Read the women in the Bible: Esther, Ruth, Martha, Mary. These women changed the world forever. And inside of you, each and every one of you is a woman with that same power and that same strength and that same world-changing capability. And your responsibility is to find that woman and to set that woman free. This is who you are. And any voices in your mind that try and tell you differently are from the enemy. And the next time you hear them, this is what you say. You say, "Nuh-uh, not me, Satan. I am a daughter of the living God, cherished, loved, and adored above all things by the Creator of all things, for the glory of Him who is greater than all things. I am awesome." And please, don't you forget it.
Wow. Okay, gosh, it's quite powerful, isn't it, that one? Wow. Can we find that on PMAP or on the website or on YouTube? YouTube. You'll have to tell us that later. All right, so we're moving straight on to our first speaker today. And this powerful lady, I'm going to call you all powerful today, is the Program Officer, Project Inclusion of Unilab Foundation, Inc. So please welcome on stage Miss Angela Santiago.
Good afternoon. Okay. Thank you, PMAP, for, first of all, for allowing us to be part of this event. So the video you just saw is called Special. It was part of our Dare to Hire campaign last year, which we launched to raise awareness on the benefits of hiring persons with disability. But that's what I'll be talking about with you today. But before that, I'd like to introduce to you a few special people. This is Mindy. She's a person with autism. She works at Southstar Drug as a pharmacy assistant. When Mindy first started working last January 2017, her supervisor said that she lacks initiative and she always needed to be instructed on what to do. This is Joanna, one of 7 deaf employees who works at Abenson as IT staff. When she entered the company, none of her hearing coworkers knew how to sign. So she had her supervisors feared that they would not be able to communicate with her properly. Mindy and Joanna are just 2 of an estimate of 15 million persons with disability in the Philippines. Imagine 15 million people, an untapped workforce of unrecognized skill and ability. As HR professionals, we might be thinking, we already have so much on our plate. We're swamped with all these meetings to attend, events to organize, positions to fill, employees to counsel. You might be thinking, why would I go through all that trouble of integrating people like Mindy and Joanna into the workplace? Why would I hire a person with disability? That's the same question we wanted to answer when we started Project Inclusion in 2013. So we first conducted a study on the experience of 28 persons with neurodevelopmental disability who were successfully employed in various companies. And the study found that hiring persons with disability is good for the person with disability, it's good for the team, and it's good for the business. In that same year, we hired our first Project Inclusion employee, Vico Cham. He works as a graphic design assistant at Unilab Foundation. So Vico is also a talented painter, and we found that the same acuity he had as a visual artist is also very useful for clerical tasks. So he's best at encoding, scanning, filing, recording check vouchers, and his favorite task, shredding. So imagine an employee who loves doing tasks that we all hate, the repetitive tasks that we all hate. So from our experience and from the study, we found that job matching and setting up the right conditions are key to workplace success. So I believe that this is not very different from how we recruit typical employees. We match their unique skills to the skills that are required by the company, and we set them up for success. And when you look past the disability and you focus on the skill and you develop it, that's what we really aim to do. And that is what Project Inclusion advocates for. So Project Inclusion enables communities to provide work access to work opportunities for persons with disability. We do this through preparing job seekers, enabling employers, and supporting transitions. So we support job seekers through skills readiness, through assessing their skills and job readiness. We also conduct career coaching, and we give them access to training opportunities. And eventually, we want to match them to available job opportunities. We also enable employers. We get to know their workplace, its physical space, office culture, job requirements, and we conduct disability sensitivity orientations to foster a culture of awareness and acceptance throughout the organization. And we support transitions of the person with disability employee and their employer through regular evaluation visits. We evaluate the performance of the employee, and we develop the capacity of the supervisor to maximize their potential. So after 4 years of helping 600 persons with disability gain access to work opportunities and partnering with 75 organizations who work with us in the advocacy, we found that when we give equal opportunities to every type of employee with or without disability, we reap rewards. And we'd like to share with you today the benefits of hiring persons with disability based on the experience of our partners. So first of all, when persons with disability are employed, it increases their adaptive functioning and helps them, it facilitates their transition to adult life. And managing persons with disability also teaches us to really, teaches us to give instructions more clearly, to give feedback regularly, to train patiently, and to motivate effectively. And just like in the case of the supervisor of Joanna at Abenson, she worked with her deaf colleagues to be able to find ways to communicate with each other, and they're able to work together effectively. And Mindy, who I shared earlier, her supervisors and coworkers shared that before Mindy joined the team, they would often go to work very stressed, forgetting to even talk to each other, forgetting to enjoy their work. But when Mindy joined, they started looking forward to work because of Mindy's positive influence and her very vibrant character. So working with persons with disability reminds us that efficiency, cooperation, and empathy are very important in our daily work. There's a story of one person with disability employee at South Star Drugs. So he wouldn't allow his mom to enter a different drugstore because it was the competitor of the company where he worked. So when we hire a person with disability, we capture a market segment that includes not only the person with disability, but even his family, his friends, and his relatives. And according to Global Disability Inclusion, the disability sector is a $1 trillion global market opportunity. So imagine that. Also, it doesn't just make for better business image, it also encourages other businesses to do the same. So when we build an inclusive workplace, we set a standard for other companies to follow. And that's exactly what we challenge and invite you to do today. And you can start by first encouraging your employees who have person with disability relatives to connect them with training opportunities as well as opportunities to be employed. Also, talking with your leaders, share with them the value that persons with disability can bring to your workplace. Also, you can incorporate the workplace inclusion into your company's policies, procedures, and practices. You can create employee resource groups to give opportunities to your people to take the lead in promoting inclusion of persons with disability in your workplace. There's so much you can do within your organizations. And lastly, partner with us. Let's work together to transform your workplace into an inclusive one. So before I close, I'd like to introduce Ms. Jen Lagasca from Asurion Declog, Philippines. So Asurion last year hired 3 person with disability employees, and Ms. Jen is the HR head of diversity and inclusion in their company. And after her, Zoila will also be telling you about their experience. Zoila Vargas, a finance specialist from Asurion. Before that, can we play also another video?
Mawalan ng internal organ.
Tawagin mo ang tuloy.
Tawagin halimaw. May colon cancer.
Sa sobrang kakulitan,
Pinanganak na walang isang mata. Gumalang.
para sa akin,
Para sa akin. Para sa akin.
Para sa anak ko.
Para sa anak ko.
Good afternoon, PMAP. Thank you for inviting Project Inclusion and Asurion, our company. If you're planning to start a program for PWD inclusion or already have started but it seems that it's not progressing, ask yourself, have you reached out to your employees who can relate? I'd like to know who among us here have some sort of disabilities. Who among us here are parents of children with special needs or have siblings, parents, spouses, or close family relatives that have disability? Can you raise your hands, please? Can we look around and see how many people? So not a lot of people, us here, have family members or can relate to persons with disability. And the reason I ask this, I am an Asurion employee who can relate. I am one of those who wants to see a bright future for my son, who would do anything that my son be accepted and somehow live an independent life in the future. I know what the PWD ID looks like. I know the privileges it gives to my son, but not a lot of Filipinos do. And it's so sad to hear that in the Philippines, in our own country, disability is still seen as a stigma. It is a punishment for past wrongdoings. And for that reason, people tend to hide. People are ashamed, afraid to ask for help. And people do not understand where the disabled persons are coming from, that they need to be understood. Yes, this is a good program. We have Unila Foundation who would be helping us start the program. We have Best Buddies Philippines and other organizations. But please consider tapping your own internal resources. We have employees that are already in our organizations who can relate and empathize. Because not a lot of us would understand when we hire individuals with disability, what really is happening in their mind, especially people who have IDD or people with intellectual and developmental disability. It's going to be difficult. I spent my almost 2 decades in the quality assurance department. My professional life revolves around audits, inspection, documentation, training, and ISO certification. That was my life. But my leaders in the company saw me in a different light. And they asked me if I could start a program for PWD inclusion. And of course, I immediately said yes. And the first thing I did was to look for advocates who in their personal experiences can really relate. These are the people that I've reached out to. They are hard of hearing. They have speech impairment. They have people, they have cancer. They have depression, anxiety disorder. They are moms, dads, siblings of PWD, and they are my allies. Never would have I thought that when I really imagined that I need to live forever, I need to be immortal for my son, that Asurion would bring me to my vision that this nation can actually become a PWD-friendly nation. That just when I thought that my life became complicated because of cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and autism, that my son would actually make my life simple by looking at people who need help, and that I could make a difference. I have been the leader for Project Hope since last year while I was a QA manager, and Asurion made a difference in my life by making me an HR manager for diversity and inclusion. I have no idea how to become an HR manager, but they made a difference because this is my vision. And they made a difference in my life that my son can actually live freely one day in this nation. And so I challenge everyone, if you are thinking of this program, please reach out to those people, reach out to people who would become advocates and would really fight to make this successful, because you don't know who you would be, whose life you would be changing, just like my company changed mine. I hope that we'll find our companies changing the Philippines to become better, one PWD, one family, one community at a time. Thank you.
Zoila Vargas, Finance Specialist at Asurion, will be sharing with us about her experience working at Asurion. Kate will be interpreting for her.
Good afternoon. I am Zoila Vargas. My sign name is Z. I work in Asurion as a finance specialist. What I do in Asurion is, I liquidate expenses, cash advance, process reimbursements for employees. So all of the employees, I liquidate every expenses and reimbursement that they use every day in their workplace. I also process the BIR forms for names of employees and the documents they need. Why do I need to work? Because I need to support my children. Asurion and General Foundation help me, help PWDs, and encourage PWDs to show that they can be successful in their workplace. I encourage everyone I encourage everyone to build a workplace inclusion because every PWD can contribute to their workplace. I decided to work in Asuran because I want to show and prove everyone that each one of us can do and contribute to our workplace. Through Project Hope, I was able to I was able to learn new things and was able to remove my fears of communicating to hearing people. They introduced us to teach sign language classes to our colleagues so they can communicate to us. Okay. So through Project Hope, everyone is enlightened and aware of persons with disabilities. Also, through Project Hope, we were able to get feedbacks from our partners, our colleagues, and they were able to help us more because through the disability orientation and the awareness were given to them. So, for Asuran, thank you for giving me this work because in the future, I know I'll be successful. Thank you for Asuran for giving PWDs a chance to improve themselves and have a career growth. Thank you, PIMA, for inviting us here to share our experiences and to encourage everyone to build an workplace inclusion.
Thank you, Ms. Jen and Zoila. So, we create equal opportunities for employment when we replace the barriers in our organizations with open doors. When we look past disability, just like with Zoila, and see people with abilities. And when we create inclusive workplaces where everyone can be successful. So I'd like to end by sharing with you the heart of what we do, and that's inclusion. Inclusion starts with I, and in the middle is us. We recognize that we cannot provide access to work opportunities for all 15 million Filipinos with disability on our own. So we shared with you today many stories of persons with disability who are thriving in inclusive workplace. And now we invite you to join us in writing the rest of the story of building a more inclusive Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can contact us at the details.
Wow, thank you very much. Wow, 3 speakers for the price of 1. What a great start. I hope you're getting some questions for the panel later. So let's move on straight to our second speaker because we have a jam-packed afternoon. So our next topic of conversation up here this afternoon is gender equality, a competitive advantage. I'm sure we could talk for days about this topic, but we have to just condense it this afternoon. So let's welcome the CEO of Investing in Women, Dr. Julia Newton-Howes, onto the stage to talk more about gender equality, a competitive advantage. Warm welcome. Come on, stay awake. Stay with us.
Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm just delighted to be here. Good afternoon, PMAP. That was such a brilliant presentation. Really moving and important presentation. So now I've got about 30 minutes to convince you, if you need convincing, that gender equality is something as HR professionals can make a huge difference to your business in terms of improving the competitiveness, improving productivity around the businesses you work for. So if you do need convincing, let's see if I can do that. So I'll talk in three parts. First of all, just to talk a little bit about gender inequalities. And Sarah pointed out in her introductory remarks that actually the Philippines is 10th globally in terms of the World Economic Forum's gender rankings. I live here in the Philippines, but I'm Australian. Australia, I think, is 43rd. So I also recognize we have quite a lot to learn from your experience, and it's really interesting being based here. So investing in women is an initiative of the Australian government, and I'd like to briefly tell you a little bit about that as part of my talk, and then lead on to a section where I hope I can raise some really practical issues about workplace gender equality and how to achieve it. So I think it's important to remember in Women's Month that the striving for workplace gender equality is part of the women's movement. It's part of a global movement to achieve equal rights for women. And I think the last speakers spoke about achieving equal rights for people living with disabilities, equal rights for people of different races. This is really an important part of living in the last half of the last century and this century, really spanning my lifetime, the fight for equal rights. And I like this quote from someone we work with in another part of investing in women, which is, successful movements seem to have several factors in common: a clarity of purpose and a vision, a cohort of champions, short-term victories, and allies outside the core base. And I think even within our organizations, when we argue for change, these factors can be incredibly important to whether we succeed or not. So if I talk about gender inequality here in the Philippines, recognizing that on so many facets, the Philippines is an example around the world to be held up. Those World Economic Forum rankings measure rankings against four different areas: education, health, the economy, and political dimensions. So I'm going to focus on the economic dimensions. And again, there's elements where the Philippines is a world leader, but there's other elements, such as workforce participation, where actually the Philippines is only 102nd in the world. So this is all the data for ASEAN, workforce participation. And ASEAN is really an interesting and mixed picture. So we can see here that the Philippines has one of the lowest workforce participation of women in ASEAN. It's similar to Malaysia and Brunei, but very different to the Mekong countries, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and Myanmar, where actually, there's quite similar workforce participation between women and men. What are some of the other ways in which women in the Philippines are disadvantaged in the economy? Well, actually, about 70% of women here in the Philippines work in the services and sales sector. And it's really interesting looking at DOLE data on wages in that sector, because it shows you that there's a 31% gap between what women are paid within that sector and what men are paid. Also, there's quite a significant gap in the overseas workers, where in general men are going overseas and achieving much higher pays in the various jobs they go to. We also know that there's a lot more women than men in more vulnerable employment, and again from Dole statistics, 1.33 million in urban areas are in non-regular or contractual roles. And I think a big part of underpinning some of the differences between men and women in the economy in the Philippines is that actually women really do the majority of the housework and caring responsibilities. This statistic of 84% is actually not a very recent statistic. It comes from a study, I think done around 2000. And it would be really interesting, and we're doing some studies to try and understand whether the next generation, whether the millennials that we're pinning all our hopes on to change the world, whether they have a very different attitude to gender equality in the household and at work. But certainly one of the factors why women behave differently in the workforce and get different outcomes is they're working a double shift. They're working at work and they're going home and doing the majority of the work there too. So this is just another graph, and it shows the representation of women versus men, and I'm sorry the countries, but the countries for board directors, CEOs, executives, SME owners, and the 4 countries are Indonesia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Vietnam. And I just wanted to show you this because I think one of the striking differences in the Philippines, where there are amazing role models of women CEOs and women executives, nevertheless, women are 50% of the population. They offer 50% of the talent that you have available in the workforce, but they're only about they're only less than 20% of, just over 10%. I think this is 12%. I understand the Institute of Corporate Directors' latest survey suggests that's increased a bit, but still under 20% of board directors, under 20% of CEOs, much better in the executive level. But somehow women just aren't making it to the top here. So, does it matter? Well, as a woman who would like to have the same opportunities as men, I do think it matters. But there's increasingly studies from around the world that show that businesses that are not gender equal are missing out. They're not making the best decisions, and their profitability and productivity is down. So the first statistic up there is from a survey of around over 900 companies done by Robeco Sam, which is an investment company that invests specifically, it makes ethical investments. And they made a study of companies with the returns for companies on the stock exchange where they had a very good gender markers versus less good gender markers. And they showed that companies who are more gender equal are providing 11% outperformance compared to those with low gender equality scores. The Peterson Institute in the US has done probably the largest survey of companies, nearly 22,000 companies across 91 countries, and have come up with this finding. So this is robust whether we're looking at England or Australia or the Philippines, that the presence of female executives is associated with unusually strong firm performance. So companies do better when they're using all their talents. There's also a lot of studies, and I couldn't decide which one to cite, so I haven't cited one here, showing that actually innovation and diversity are linked. So I think the business case is there, that gender equality leads to better performance within all our companies. So I'm not sure why companies aren't able to deliver on that. And would be really interested in your views on that as an amazing group of HR professionals. Is this a case we still need to make? Or is the data there? Is it sufficient? And are other issues at play in not achieving gender equality? I think the reasons why we haven't got to gender equality, which you will be familiar with, are really interesting, and I'll just raise a little fragment of this. I always think it's interesting that studies where recruiters are presented with CVs and that are identical, but on one CV it's a man's name and the other CV it's a woman's name. We know they rank those CVs differently. I'd be really interested if you're aware of studies and that have been done here in the Philippines. The studies I've seen come from Australia, Europe, and the US. But I would be surprised because I think we all carry gender stereotypes within us. So we know that that's where it starts. Depending on the job, people will have preconceived views about the suitability of male and female candidates. And it's interesting, there's a number of different papers about how major orchestras consistently were struggling to recruit women until they started to audition people behind a curtain. And that resulted when people were really judging the music and not judging whether it was a man or a woman. There was an enormous jump in the number of females who are hired into top orchestras. And I think this demonstrates how, like it or not, we bring our preconceptions about gender to our recruitment. Social norms tend to recognize men as breadwinners, women as caregivers. Women are often valued for their role as mothers and wives beyond what they are valued as of their role in the economy. This is changing, and I think any country or any company that doesn't strive to move with that change is less able to utilize the talent it has at its disposal. 50% of the talent here in the Philippines is female, and it's not all being fully utilized. So investing in women operates in 4 countries in Southeast Asia, and it's a really interesting group of countries which all are also interesting in comparison to Australia. Here in the Philippines, in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and in Myanmar. And we are working with businesses to support workplace gender equality, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We also work to help women entrepreneurs access finance by working in the impact investing space. We're working with governments to try and reduce gender discriminatory regulations and policies, and that's actually not a major problem here in the Philippines. And we also work in advocacy and communications to try and drive people to reconsider some of the social norms that are harmful to women and men. So let me tell you a little bit about the business partnerships work we're doing. So we have supported the creation of the Philippines Business Coalition for Women's Empowerment, and 7 large companies here in the Philippines have come together to form this coalition under the auspices of PhilWin, the Philippines Women's Economic Network. These companies, which include Ayala, Convergys, Magsaysay, SSI, SGV, Natasha and Accenture. So large, mostly domestic companies have made a commitment to drive workplace gender equality within their companies. And they're doing that by using EDGE certification. So EDGE is a globally recognized system of certification. It stands for Economic Dividends from Gender Equality. It was established by a foundation in Switzerland, and it collects data from across companies to determine the extent to which those companies' policies and practices have resulted in gender equality. And once companies have collected that data, there actually has to be an independent audit of the data before you can become EDGE certified. So it is an independent look at the extent to which you really are gender equal. So this isn't actually about giving special favours to women, it's about giving equal opportunities to women and men within your business. And I think it's really exciting that in January, Ayala Land and Convergys became the first two companies from that group to get EDGE certification. So to describe in a little bit more detail what EDGE certification involves, it looks across these 5 dimensions: the extent to which people get equal pay for equivalent work, recruitment and promotion, leadership development, training, mentoring, flexible working, and company culture. What companies do is collect data from 10 data tables from their HR system, which looks at just where women and men are within the company. It looks at how men and women are promoted within the company, how they enter and exit, and what levels, whether women are able to come back to work after maternity leave, whether men have access to paternity leave, the extent to which mentoring is offered to both men and women. And then based on that, the company gets a detailed report of strengths and areas for improvement that it can then take back to go on a journey towards achieving gender equality. No organisations are perfect in this area. It is about a journey towards optimising your performance through improving the gender equality for your staff. And across those 5 dimensions, they look, is there a policy in place? Do staff know there's a policy in place? Is the policy actually in operation? How do your staff see it? So in addition to the data tables that companies fill out, they also have to document what policies are in place to support gender equality. And there's also a staff survey, which is a really valuable way to get feedback to the extent to which your staff believe that there are equal opportunities for women and men. So it does start with policies, although policies aren't sufficient. And I just thought that, one of my things that I find most interesting in this space is to consider what sort of policies, to categorise them in these 3 ways. So some policies on gender are there to protect women. And sometimes they're not actually protecting women, they're actually excluding them from some of the best opportunities they have. So policies that exclude women from night work have actually been very detrimental to women wanting to work in the BPO sector, for example. But obviously, everyone should be protected from sexual harassment. So in some ways, yes, that protection is important, but it's also important to judge whether some of this protection for women should actually just be good OH&S practice that applies to everyone, not only women. There's also a range of policies that equalise, policies that explicitly prohibit anti-discrimination in employment or require equal pay for equivalent work. And then I think the most exciting area that we should be thinking about are policies that might really disrupt the status quo. And I think the global experience on disruptive policies towards gender equality. The standout in this area is paternity leave and flexible work. Introducing those two policies has probably been done the most to enable women to have more equal opportunities within the economy in those companies and those countries that have introduced them. So I do think in this age of disruption, it's not enough to hold the status quo. It's also about saying, how do we really, the World Economic Forum's data suggests it will take the world 213 years to achieve gender equality. Now, I think that's too long. If you think that's too long, then we need to think about some of these disruptive policies that might be able to change the norms. So, I've told you a little bit about EDGE and how it operates, but EDGE is quite a big system, and there's a lot of the ideas there that I think are relevant to any company and of interest to any HR practitioner. So I suppose to sort of come to the end of my talk, I thought I'd say, so what sort of things do I think you might think about if you want to move seriously on gender equality? So first of all, what people who undergo the EDGE certification say was it was useful to them because they thought they knew where they were on gender equality within their company, but now they really had the data. And the data can be pretty important when you're going to your executive team to argue for change. Really having the data about it can be pretty important. And I think the other thing that EDGE certification does, it does make you ask a number of questions about the policies that you have in place, and it makes you get feedback from your staff about what they think. So those three dimensions are quite useful to companies to move along the journey to gender equality, getting the evidence. Then I guess the extent to which we can really understand the factors behind inequality, gender inequality, where you find it in your workplace. And to try, what EDGE tries to do is try and help you understand where you can have the biggest wins. It's a more systematic way, but you would know within your companies too. I mean, the HR departments we work with already have a good idea about where the quick wins are, because making wins, coming back to the executive with problems you've solved, that progress is really important to continue the morale for change. So creating an action plan with real targets can be pretty important. If the board of the company you work for doesn't have any women board directors, that wouldn't be uncommon here in the Philippines, but maybe the only way to change it is for the board to adopt a target for that change. But I hope you'll also be champions for change, and it's so important to have male champions for change on gender equality as well as female champions for change, because gender inequality can be a negative for men as well. So seeking champions within your senior leadership is really, really important. But having champions within the HR department is critical. So let me just remind you of the fact that gender equality is about women's rights being human rights. The equal treatment of women and men creates a just, equal society for all. Look for that clarity of purpose as you move forward. Have a clear vision within your company. Create a cohort of champions for change. Celebrate those short-term victories and look for champions outside the core base. And I really wish you luck and hope you can succeed in this. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you very much. I think as a company, Q2, we're accidentally a success story. Not quite sure how we got there, and I'd love to find out more. And I'm sure everyone else in the audience has the same comment. Can we get a copy of your slides? Wonderful. So we'll sort that out with PMAP so we can all get copies, because I noticed lots of people taking photographs. So it's always good to get the real thing. So I'd like to bring up to be next to me a guest host who's going to introduce our main speaker for the day. So I'd like to call the trustee in charge of International Affairs Committee, Miss Dinah H. Loomis, to come up and introduce our last speaker of the day ahead of our panel discussion.
When somebody gets accelerated to high school from 4th grade, gets in the honors class in high school, becomes a scholar, model scholar, youth leader, and consistent dean's lister in college, most people would probably say, oh, it's in the genes. But you know, when this is consistently done all the way to higher learning, garners awards from prestigious schools like Santa Clara University in 2011, Central St. Martin's of London in 2012, Harvard University and John F. Kennedy School of Government in 2015, you can probably say that's way beyond the genes. Our guest speaker has shared the stage with the Prime Minister of Peru, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, and yes, Jack Ma, as a panelist on e-commerce for development during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, last January. While her educational pedigree is impressive, it was her professionalism and civility that struck a deep chord in my heart. When she responded to my email in a matter of hours, I thought, no wonder she succeeds in everything she does. She doesn't let grass grow under her feet. Ladies and gentlemen, the president and co-founder of From Rags to Riches, founder and curator of Things That Matter, and founder and host of In Good Podcast, the epitome of passion married to a strong purpose. Help me welcome the Wonder Woman of the Philippines, Therese Fernandez Ruiz. Come on down.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Okay, should I go up the stage? Yes, you can't see me. It's okay, you can say it. I didn't wear heels today or for the past 2 years. Hi, good afternoon. I have never been introduced in that way, like right in front of me. I was literally seated like here. Thank you so much. It was very touching. And I am very honored to be here with you today. And hopefully I can share with you some things beyond the things that you could probably search online. So I want to share with you our leadership journey in Rags to Riches. But before anything else, I'd like to also introduce myself. So a little bit about me. I am a new mom, And for the, yes, thank you. And for the moms in the crowd, you know that, we volunteer the photos of our kids even if no one's asking. We're like, look, it's our baby. I have 1,000 more pictures. And so, yes, I am a new mom. So here is one of the many, many photos I have. Later, I can show you more. I'm a wife and life partner to my husband, Mark Ruiz. So Mark Ruiz is also a co-founder in Rags to Riches. That is, in fact, how we got together. So see, we build communities and build relationships. So it's a very fruitful organization. And I am also the result of a decision of strangers. About 80% of my pictures look like that. That's me, like a little boy in a dress. So 80% of my photos are under the cross, beside the angels, or on top of a donation box. So there's a very special reason behind this. My mom is a missionary worker, so I used to go around Quiapo Church. Are you familiar with Quiapo Church? Yes. So there are about 3 churches in that area. There's Quiapo, San Sebastian, and Holy Face. So we would go around those churches, and my mom would teach catechism, or she would be the steward of the Blessed Sacrament of the chapel. So she'd go on vigils there, and I can sleep there because I was really small then. And so because I grew up in that environment, I had a lot of friends who were street kids. Back then, I didn't know that they were street kids because I was one of them. I was also always in the streets. And like the usual typical kids thing, we play together, we talk, and we always talk about our aspirations. There was this game that we used to play. Oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And then we would point at people and would say, okay, I want to be a policeman. I want to be a teacher. She looks like a teacher. Or I want to be this. And my playmates dreamt of amazing dreams. Some of them wanted to be doctors, teachers, some lawyers, nurses. And I didn't have much of an imagination during that time. I looked around me, and near the churches there were also bars. And I said, okay, the bars are super lively during the nighttime. There are women there. They look like they're having fun. I want to work there. I want to be a dancer in the bar. So, yes. So today I am not a dancer, but I am here today as a social entrepreneur, speaking in front of you. And that has nothing to do with the quality of my dreams when I was young. So people always say, dream big dreams when you were young. But for some people, they dream big dreams, like my playmates. But the reason why I'm here and they're not is not because I'm better than them. Even if it seems like I'm super smart, I'm really just madiskarte and really work hard and very competitive, sometimes to a fault. And that's why I had all of the grades. But when it comes to talent and ambition and dreams, I wasn't really any better than my playmates. But the reason why I'm here now is because I've been given opportunities that they were not. I have been given so many scholarships throughout high school and college. I've been helped by my family, as well as people who I don't know at all. So I remember back in college, I was a scholar then, and I would write letters to anonymous donors, like, dear donor, thank you very much for supporting the scholarship program. And my grades are like this, I joined this organization, and it's always in the back of my head that this card is going to someone I don't know, but someone who has impacted my life so much. And I found that fascinating, that someone who didn't know me decided to help me. Someone who didn't know someone else decided to go beyond himself or herself or her or his family to help someone they don't know. And so when I graduated, I went back to Quiapo Church. I looked for my playmates. Some of them were still there. Some were in jail. Some passed away. They were very young. The doctors, the teachers, the lawyers, the nurses who had big, amazing dreams, who were talented kids, didn't get there. And it wasn't because they weren't good enough. It was because they weren't given the opportunities I was given. Imagine if they've been given the same. I could only imagine, but hopefully now we could do something about it. So I'm always thankful for people who decide with other people in mind. And this is also why we started Rags to Riches. We started Rags to Riches 10 years ago in a place called Payatas. Who among you are familiar with Payatas? Yes, quite a number. So Payatas is a very famous place for having a big garbage dump site somewhere there. And it's also one of the biggest urban poor communities in the Philippines. When you are part of a school and you think about an outreach program, you will probably think of Payatas as an outreach place. So one of the women there is Ate Marge. Ate Marge is a stay-at-home mother. Most of our artisans were stay-at-home mothers. And if you're super observant, you can see that she tied a piece of string from her toes to the crib of her baby so that she can weave while rocking her baby to sleep. Isn't that amazing? I find it always fascinating because I have tried this and my coordination is all over the place. You need some sort of coordination to do this, so obviously not a dancer. So we met Ate Marge about 10 years ago, and her friends and neighbors and people who were making foot rugs out of fabric. I'm sure you're familiar with how this looks like, yes? Yes, so you see this everywhere. Foot rugs made out of scrap fabric. But do you know the backstory of this? The backstory is the artisans, like Ate Marge, who would make these foot rugs out of fabric, would only earn 10 to 16 pesos, not per piece, but per day. 10 to 16 pesos per day. And this was because Ate Marge and her community were in between middlemen. They don't have direct access to the scrap fabric and they don't have direct access to the market. So from one middleman who would get the scrap fabric from the factory, they will buy it and then sell to one middleman, to another middleman, and to another, and then to Ate Marge. And Ate Marge can't go straight to the department store, right? She would need to go to another set of middlemen to get to the market. So of course, every hard-working day, she would only earn 10 to 16 pesos a day. But we knew that that was not because she was not good enough. It was because she didn't have the opportunities, which is like the theme of our lives. So she wasn't alone. She had a community with her. If you know Payatas and you know the foot rugs, Payatas is the foot rug capital of the universe. You could see all of the rugs that are there. So this is the profile of most of our artisans. They do not have a lot of opportunities. They lack documentation. 40% of our artisans didn't have birth certificates. Who among you don't have birth certificates? Yay, I'm very happy for everyone. Because apparently something that's so basic that we take for granted is something that a lot of people don't have. And I didn't actually know that. And no access to bank accounts. Because of course, if you don't have your birth certificates and other identification cards, how many IDs do you need to open a bank account? 2 valid IDs. It can't be an ID that you printed out of your house. It has to be government valid IDs. But even if they had a lot of things not going on for them, we still thought that they had a lot of things going on for them. They were enterprising, resourceful, compassionate, hopeful, and resilient. They are some of the most generous people I know. Like they don't have a lot, but they give everything. And so we thought, why don't we become their business partners? So we work with them, not just in a project, but in a business. So 10 years later, we're in this together with our artisans. We transformed the foot rugs from those to like better looking foot rugs. And then we partnered with amazing designers like Rahul Laurel, Amina Aranaz Alunan, Oliver Tolentino, artist Olivia Daboville to create fashion accessories and home accessories. So now the products have an elevated look, and now you can actually assign a better value to them because you can use them, and they are art pieces themselves. So to date, we have a lot of advocates who love the brand, who advocate for us, who tell our story. But this is still my favorite part of our whole story so far. This is one of my favorite pictures, like ever. We had a lot of photos. We have Vogue, we have different events, but you know, this one is my favorite. Remember what I mentioned earlier? When our artisans, 40% of them didn't have birth certificates, and of course, bank accounts. This is a photo of all of the savings passbooks of our artisans after we've worked with them. And the greener ones are actually their kids' savings passbooks. And it impacted me a lot because for most of them, and they told us this was the first thing that ever had their names on it. Ever. They don't have the birth certificates or the land titles or the identification cards, but now they have a savings passbook from an actual bank, and they know that their savings are growing while working with Rags to Riches, and they have something that has their names on it. And for us, that is special. That is thinking long term. That is equipping people with empowering them so that they can make their own decisions in the future and think long term. So in 10 years, we have trained more than 1,000 artisans, partnered with 5 top designers from the Philippines, and we sell through about 80 outlets all over the world. But that's actually not what I want to share with you today, even if I've been speaking for a while now. So sorry, it's going to be a longer sharing. I hope you don't mind. I have a couple more stories to share behind the scenes, the things that people don't usually see. So when people look at our story, like if you Google us, if you search us, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll think that we have made it. That, oh my gosh, they're amazing. It's like one success after another, and then you're here. But actually, it was an overnight success that took 10 years. And I had a lot of lessons that I learned. I just selected 3, but actually I have probably 567, something like that, but a lot. And we don't have time for that. So maybe for the next 10 years of PMAP General Assembly, we can share all of those. But it's not enough. But for now, I want to share with you the 3 stories that led us to the leadership lessons that we have learned. It really changed our paradigm about what leadership is and should be. The first story is about the 98%. So 98% is a pretty nice number, right? If it's your grade, or if it's your hit rate, or if it's your growth, wow. But for us, when we were starting, 98% was our rejection rate. Like, out of 100 pieces that our artisans would weave, we had to reject 98 of them. And it was painful. And it was painful for us and for the artisans. But why was this the case? Because the quality wasn't there yet. And we knew that if this was going to be a long-term thing, we had to be careful about the quality. We had to make it a priority. But of course, the concept of quality is very different. For people from different backgrounds, different priorities. So we had this problem for a while, and what actually solved it is one event. Of course, a series of talks, but one particular event where we gathered all of our artisans. There were 30 of us back then. We went to one of the high-end malls in Metro Manila. We split into smaller groups so we don't look like a field trip. And then we went to the different stores and touched the products in the stores of the high-end mall. So the artisans themselves looked at the products and said, okay, so this is what it takes to be here. So they themselves, after that, created their own quality standard that up to now we are still implementing. And so that decreased our rejection rate significantly from 98% to less than 3%. So it was inspiring for us because we realized that it wasn't us who imposed it. It was just us who opened the door of possibilities and showed people what's possible. So in 10 years, we've had monthly job orders. If you're familiar with livelihood at all, even if this sounds boring, this is kind of a big deal. Because if you're in livelihood, usually you have livelihood maybe Christmas, maybe during bazaars or fairs, but every month for 10 years. So for us, that is a huge achievement. It's a very boring, seemingly boring achievement, but for our artisans, it means the world. For our artisans, that meant that they were able to send their kids to school, put food on the table every single day. So we're quite happy about that. So what I learned from this is leaders don't give up easily, which we know, but sometimes it's hard. No, most of the time it's hard. When I first looked at that 98%, I thought, okay, should we just change the product then? Should we just make hot dogs or tocino or longanisa or candila or candles? So we said, okay, let's not give up until we have identified the root of the problem. So we really talked to the artisans. We did that field trip that we refused to call a field trip. And we didn't give up on them. we knew that there was something there, and we tried it anyway. The second story is about the animal print. So when we were starting and we met with Rahul Laurel, we were so amazed because we're now in fashion. And guys, I graduated 10 years ago and my course was management. So I had no fashion background at all. I don't even have fashionable friends. I wasn't even fashionable then. So when we met Rahul, we were quite happy, and we said, okay, we're now in fashion. Let us go all the way. Let us ask our artisans to source for animal print lining. You know what I mean, right? The zebra print, leopard print, so that when you open your bag, there is a surprise that there is a print and it looks so pretty. So we went to our community, and then we talked to them and we said, it'll be great if we have animal print lining. Can we start sourcing? So all of our artisans went out, they went to the Palenque, they went to the Divisoria, and they came back with this. He is an animal, for sure. He is a bear. And we were shocked. We were looking at it and we're like, what do we say? Where did we go wrong? What happened? So, and then we realized that our animal print is very trivial for a mother of 14 kids trying to feed her family every day, right? We didn't understand that. It's not that she didn't understand it, it's that we didn't understand her. And we didn't understand the circumstances of her life. And that's huge, because this for us is trivial, but feeding her kids is important. So from then on, we realized that just because we talk to each other, it doesn't mean that we really understand each other. We have to make the effort. We have to make that real connection, because we can't partner with people who we don't understand or we don't try to understand on a daily basis. And now, from animal print, Winnie the Pooh, there was Dumbo the elephant also, and there was Spider-Man also. They are now in vogue and like worn by people who the world admires. So they have gone a long way. They have come a long way. And it was because of this. Leaders listen and are willing to unlearn. And that's important, unlearning. So that is what was painful for a lot of us, because we're so proud of our achievements, so proud of the things that we have learned in the university and throughout the years of our education, that we forget what it's like to really learn on the ground. So we had to unlearn a lot of our preconceived notions. Because you have to understand, of course, I came from a humble background, but also I went to great universities with great frameworks. So of course, when I went to the community, I was like, look at this framework. It's beautiful. It worked in Africa and in India. And of course, it doesn't work everywhere else, right? But of course, I didn't know that. It's like, this is how it's done. You listen to me, I studied. I graduated, ganon. And of course, got humbled really quickly. Like within the first few days, realized that I don't know enough. And in fact, the best way for me to really understand is to learn from the artisans we're in partnership with. And the last story is about the 3 cell phones. So, when we were starting, our artisans suddenly started earning a lot more. For some of them, they really wanted their earnings to go to symbolic things about that will help tell them that they are rising up. So like, for example, one family, their family dreamt of having roasted chicken, just roasted chicken for one meal, even just for a birthday. And they will already feel that they've made it, because this family used to scavenge for garbage and eat from the garbage dump site. So a roasted chicken is like the pinnacle of like achievement. And they got it. And they got it again. And suddenly they're tired of it. They don't want roasted chicken anymore. So they said, okay, what else will be symbolic? And for a lot of people, it's cell phones, right? So I remember that time when you have a cell phone that's high-end and people are like, wow, she's so rich. So in our communities, it's not different. So they have a lot of cell phones. And so we realized that it wasn't because they just want more cell phones and want more connectivity, but also because they don't know what else they could use their money for. When you are in a situation where opportunities are always lost, you're always afraid that you will lose your money in some way. Like, I will spend this because I don't want to lose it. You know what I mean? I will convert it into a television, into another cell phone so that I can enjoy it, or I will lose it. Right? So we learned that, and so this happened. The amazing favorite photo of mine happened when we realized that it was really a matter of sharing what's out there. That there are bank accounts, there's such a thing as micro-insurance, micro-investments. So all of our community members now are looking into insurance, and a lot of them are looking into investments. In fact, some of them have already invested. So it's amazing what they could do with their resources once they have it, but also what they could do with the learning once they know it. As leaders, we need to think and dream long term, not just for ourselves, but for others. That is what we realize. Sometimes when we decide on something, we just think about consequence number one, because it's easiest, diba? What's gonna happen if I decide this? But what if we think 10 steps ahead, 100 steps ahead? It is super exhausting. I do this all the time. My head is aching from all of the consequences I'm always thinking about. But you know, I think that kind of practice can help us make better decisions, not just for ourselves, but for the world. Even if it's as simple as throwing your trash in the right bin. Because if you throw it outside and then it will end up here, it will end up there, it's very tiring. People will catch you just looking at like the space, just thinking about all of the consequences. But I think when you practice it, you'll get better at it, and hopefully the quality of our decisions get better as well. So, it is a success story that took 10 years and lots of lessons and grit. But we are not quite there yet. And there's still so much to be done. And why is that? Because getting out of poverty is cultural and generational. The people in Payatas who we are in partnership right now have been there for generations. Their father, their grandfather, they have been there. And so our hope now is that their kids will not know what poverty is anymore. So that's why our partnership must be consistent, transparent, and sustainable. Empowerment through entrepreneurship and livelihood needs to be consistent and reliable in order for it to make a real difference. Like what I mentioned earlier, 10 years, monthly job orders. It's as simple and as boring and as straightforward as that, but it's really difficult to do. And so we always look for partners who can do it with us. So we have to build and grow R2R and constantly partner with customers and corporations who can include us in their decisions. And of course, I place my email address there because I have no more cards left. So if you want to get in touch with me, please take note of my email address. It's reese.fernandez@ragstoriches.ph. And we do a lot of corporate collaborations that really go a long way for our communities. And 20 million Filipinos are still in poverty. So we have to scale R2R to more communities and the R2R model to more social enterprises. We have no illusions that we can solve poverty on our own. Like, that's just not possible, and that's just too messianic of us. But we know that we could do something with what we have in our small space, and hopefully more people can do the same. And that's why we also started our two platforms. One is the Artisan Academy, which is a capacity building platform that we are planning to scale to more community enterprises and community artisans. So if you in your companies are working with communities who are making things and they need financial literacy, values formation, or skills training, we can provide that. And another is Things That Matter, which is a media and market platform that puts together different social enterprises in one market platform. So it's like your Lazada, but for sustainable, meaningful social enterprise products. So not a lot of inventory, but very meaningful per piece. And because we know that when we do all of these, and that's a lot, and we need a lot of support and help to do it, we can create change one person at a time. So for example, this is Ate Marge. Remember her, the first one that I introduced to you? So this photo was taken about 7 years ago, and this is her today. So today, she's one of our top performing store ambassadors. She's in UP Town Center, and she can tell you about her whole story. She can tell you about the stories of her community artisan members. And so when I look at this photo, I know that the impact is beyond just Ate Marge. It is with her kids, it's with her community. And I hope that we could always think about that as leaders in our own fields, our decisions are super, super powerful. That if a decision of somebody who wanted to give a scholarship resulted to me, I think the decision of corporations, of companies who are really intentional about your decisions can really make the country a better place. And I'm looking forward to that. My son is 1.5 years old, so he's gonna grow up in a world that we will all create. So please make it really, really well. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much. People one person at a time is just always goosebumps for me. So we're going to move straight on to our panel discussion this afternoon. And I hope that you've got questions. Please don't let crickets enter the room. We've heard from inspiring speakers this afternoon, and now we've got some great panelists who can also join the conversation. So I'd like to introduce onto the stage our moderator this afternoon. Is she ready? She is there to my right.
Yes, I
Lynn
am.
Mookie, who will come and introduce the rest of the panelists. So remember, questions, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Sarah. How's everyone? It's been quite a packed afternoon. I believe we've been learning a lot, getting inspired, I hope, by all the talks that we've been hearing. Let me call up here our panelists for this afternoon. First one up, we have someone who's very young. We have quite a good blend of panel speakers this afternoon. We've been talking about grit, courage, persistence, perseverance, overcoming your fears. So let's welcome up here on stage Kathleen Yu. Kathleen Yu is founder and CEO of Ruma Rocket. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Kathleen? Tama ba? And aside from her many, many awards, most latest is the 2018 Go Negosyo Inspiring Filipina Tech Entrepreneur. Kathleen, welcome to the PMAP GMM. There's a microphone right up there for you. All right. We have a second panelist. Right. A mother and daughter team, very inspiring. I believe we've been talking about being mothers, being daughters this afternoon. So please let's welcome from Gilburn Corporation, the founders, president and CEO, Ms. Lulu de los Reyes, and her daughter, Bernadette Sia. And a leader of a very successful, very reputable company, well known to us in the HR world, of course. Who else have we got on our panel this afternoon? We have Trixie White, President and CEO of Q2 HR Solutions. Thank you for coming over, Trixie, and joining us on the panel this afternoon. Now, you know, what I did was I actually gave them questions that they can anticipate that I'm going to ask them related to our theme. But I do believe our panel is quite ready and prepared to change it a little bit. I realize that a lot of our people here might be eager to ask them questions as well. So what we're gonna do, if you're game for this, is let's do this a little bit differently, right? I'm gonna start off with my first question to them, which will help you learn a little bit about their journey as successful women in the corporate world. But what we can also do is to allow you the opportunity to ask them questions as well while we go along, right? Normally, a panel discussion goes, you know, in a very structured format. We sit in a panel, we talk here, and you just sit there and listen. So we'll do it a little bit differently. If the panelists are okay with this, we will allow you to interrupt and join the conversation so that we're all together in this room, in this conversation about how we succeed in our journey as leaders. So any one of you who wants to come up and ask a question, what I'll do is I'll ask Windy right there. Can you help me on this one? All right, Windy Tiongson is our training manager from Microtel Hospitality. There's a microphone there. Windy will be going around, so if you want to ask a question to our panelists, just raise your hands and Windy will go right up to you and help you to get your questions asked. So let's get started. The first question, which, yeah, you all know I'm going to ask, and you can decide who wants to go first, is really to tell us a little bit about your success journey and what you have found to be most fulfilling in that journey. So who wants to go first? All right, thank you for going first, Kathleen. What has been the most fulfilling part of your journey?
Hi, so my name is Kathleen, and just a little background on me. I'm a technology entrepreneur. Basically, I invented an algorithm when I was in university that's now being used by HR organizations in Singapore, Hong Kong, and here in the Philippines to basically pre-select and help HR practitioners like yourself make better people decisions. So throughout my journey, my business started out as a thesis proposal. So as soon as I gave it to my professor, the professor said, no, it's not going to make sense. This isn't going to work. So what I did was I emailed the professor at MIT my proposal, and I said, can you help me out here? I want this to work because there are a lot of problems that I'm seeing in the recruitment space, and I think recruiting through algorithms is going to be more helpful. And basically, that professor took me under his wing, and I was able to build a business out of it. But throughout my business journey, there were people who told me that it's impractical, it's not going to work. It doesn't make sense, but I think the most fulfilling part for me was when I spoke to one of our clients recently. When they first started out, they had a very, very tiresome recruitment process where they were interviewing 10, 20 people a day just to keep up with their process, just to make sure that they had enough people in enough seats. But over 6 months of working with them and of them using our machine learning tools, it went from 30% of their sales force productive to about 97% of their sales force productive within 6 months. And they came back to us after the 6-month trial, and they said, we see you guys as partners to helping us recruit people more efficiently. So thank you for the work. And at that moment, it really hit me that all those years of people saying no to me, and I didn't give up. I kept trying, I kept pushing, and now I'm actually able to help clients like them.
Okay, that's great to know. I'm sure most of us here, yes, round of applause for Kathleen there. Very young techpreneur. I mean, for us in the HR world, we know how much agony we have trying to make sure that we have the right candidate, and not just for recruiting, but even for succession planning. So what I found out with Rumor Racket's talent management system is that it can actually help to put science into that process of understanding who's the best match. And I'm glad you persevered, Kathleen, and you're up here today to share that with us. I think you want to go next, Trixie, right? You're holding the microphone there. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you for the invitation today. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I started my business 18 years ago. And it's a long journey, and I just heard also earlier from Rags to Riches, 10 years and all that. And it's very inspiring. My journey started, I said, about 18 years ago in the HR field, but more on the headhunting side. My husband and I started it together. And my mom was actually a product of PMAP. My mom's name is Lina Prima Limbo, Alba Limbo. So she was part of PMAP, and I was working with her because she asked me to help her. But I think one of the things I learned is as a professional and as I used to work in corporate business, going to a family business that is family run, there's a lot of frustrations. And so I opted to leave my mom's business to save my relationship and be mother-daughter instead of fighting. So it became husband and wife. My husband and I started Q2 together. Now, there's a lot of agonies there, but what I realized is Me as a person, my philosophy in life has a lot to do with why I am here now and why the business is thriving. And it's really because I believe that I want to always have a positive impact in everything that I do. So it's not just in business. So people like talking to me because maybe they like it when I listen, or, I always try to do things for others that has a positive impact. It's not all about me. Now, my journey with a purpose started about 2 years down the line with our business. I was doing executive search, and then a client of mine, a multinational, said, Trix, can you help me with our contractual business? But instead of doing, daily wage, I'd like to do it on productivity based. So it meant that I would have to go there and do time and motion study. So I did. I went to the client. I would go there very regularly. But in the meantime, I was having my people there on contractual basis. I was going to shift them to productivity once it was done. So one time, I was on my way. My car was there. I was getting out of the car, and this elderly woman, comes running to me. And she touches me and says, Ma'am, kayo po ba si Miss Trixie White? Yes. And I said, Oo, ako nga. Ako si Trixie White. And then she just said to me and looked me straight in the eye and said, Ma'am, gusto ko lang sana magpasalamat. Dahil sa inyo, napapakain ko ang aking mga anak. Wow. Someone looks at you straight in the eye and just gives you that punchline. It changed my life. That was a turning point for me. I knew that my business was more than what it was. It had a purpose. It had a bigger purpose than what I was, than what I was doing. So our purpose is to uplift lives. In the company, I tell them we all need to be the business needs to be profitable. Why? It's not just because the shareholders need their money back. It's not that. It's because we do a fantastic job. What we do in this country that has so much unemployment is to provide opportunities. Is to uplift the lives of all those people, not just for the top executives for executive search, but even those that are semi-skilled, blue-collared workers, non-graduates. We provide these people jobs. Jobs that they're decent, that they can really look people in the eye and say, I've got a job, right? So I take it very seriously. My purpose in life, I want to have a positive impact in everything that I do, and that includes the business that I have, being a mother, being a daughter, being a friend, being a boss, and that goes beyond what, just Trixie White, right? And also, uplifting the lives of the people and telling my workers that we have a purpose here. That it's not just about the money because we have to give it to shareholders, but because we do a great job. So that's my leadership journey, and that's my business journey.
Profit with purpose. Thank
Profit
you very
with
much.
purpose. Thank you.
Yeah, that's your tagline, Trixie White. Profit with purpose. That's very inspiring, Trixie. And I'm so glad you mentioned about working with your mom, which I didn't know at the time that I met you, and the challenges that go along with it, and that sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean, it's tough enough working together when you're not related. I'm sure all of you would say, there's one particular colleague in the office that I really would rather not work with. But imagine if that colleague is also a parent or a daughter, which is something very inspiring that Bernadette and Lulu has been able to really, I'd say, put together in a wonderful way. Who's going to go first? Bernadette first, I suppose. Yeah, tell us about the journey that you and your mom has had.
Thank you, Lynn. It is very interesting to jump off from that topic. And of course, as a daughter, I will speak on behalf of my mom. But the journey that we started, the company is now 27 years. It is my mom who founded a company in an industry which was male-dominated. So to speak, she broke the glass ceiling in terms of leading this kind of business. And the business is involved in the distribution of laboratory equipment for quality assurance, quality control, manufacturing, as well as pharmaceutical. And in this industry, it's, again, male-dominated, and it was my mom who started it. And I began my journey with her because she would always bring me along to work as well. So the brainwashing started very young, when I was perhaps 2 years old, when she would bring me inside the car and she would go into meetings and I would be there. And fast forward 20 years, and I come with her, and her clients recognized me as a 2-year-old little child who would come with her. So I would think that the story is founded on that relationship as well. To say that we don't have arguments in the office would be an understatement. But I would always put our relationship in the business in a way like flying a plane. I would put it metaphorically in that sense, wherein my mom catapulted the kind of industry or the business just like a pilot taking off. And she did it in such a good speed and such momentum that it is there. And by the time that I took over, it is my now job to keep it on a sustained position. So the leadership that I'm called for right now is sustainability. That keeping that 32,000 feet, 33,000 feet, until we reach a certain destination. So I think that's the partnership that stems from this kind of business. So it's very interesting, and the fulfillment comes when we see our staff, our team, also leveling up. And in fact, it is very interesting that we talk about women in leadership, and for us, it's quite the opposite. It is our male counterparts that have quite difficulty breaking the glass ceiling in our office because it's more or less female-dominated. But that's not intentional. Right now, it's already 50-50 in the workspace, and everybody recognizes the kind of skills and contribution they have. And the fulfillment that we have is that we bring to the table an example that we can lead the industry in this part successfully, and at the same time, help families grow.
I think what our audience would find especially interesting is that Lulu actually started out as an employee, just like many of us. If you don't mind sharing that little bit of the story, because we're going to go into what made you persevere, what gave you the courage to start Gilburn Corporation, which is now a very successful company. Lulu was a chemist, and were you doing chemist work in the laboratory?
I'm a chemist, and I'm doing a laboratory work. And I realized that the place is not for me because I don't want to face this equipment, and old equipment, a very crude equipment. And I asked myself then, what am I doing here? I need to go out to meet people. Probably that's my role, or the characteristic I want to have, or that the person that I want to be is somebody who can talk to people, not to this laboratory or scientific equipment, though I'm a chemist. Yeah, I started the business in my mind because all the equipment that I encountered in that laboratory are very, very old, and in my mind, I want to bring new face in this business, a new technology from where I can give a better life to the people inside the laboratory. So I went out of that, but I don't have money, so I tried my luck in selling laboratory equipment. So I was so successful then, and then I challenged myself if I can do the same as like my boss. I went to a far-flung place as in Germany, and then alone. And I mean, I was so scared and jittery when I saw this, the exhibition full of men. Oh my goodness. And at the time, Germany is dominated by men. So I was there, asking them to give the distributorship of the equipment, and they were so surprised and amazed. Why is this woman so brave enough to ask us to give the distributorship to her and to a small country like Philippines? But I was so persistent then because I have this goal of bringing new technology and uplifting the lives of the laboratory analysts and chemists. So fast forward, I was able to establish my first, why I have this business is to feed my daughter. I want her to go to a good school. So at first, I need the money to support her because and after that, I was so successful, and fast forward again. After so many brainwashing, starting from age 3 years old, all the way to college, I pulled her out after graduating from UP and then sent her to Europe for training. So, and then now, the benefit I get from having her to be my successor is now I'm sitting in my office, relaxing and enjoying my life.
Can you just imagine that? Yeah.
She's my only daughter, one and only.
All right. Such an inspiring story. Can you just imagine from being a chemist working in a laboratory with ugly and old equipment broken down and sparking a dream from that of wanting something better, not just for themselves, not just for herself, but maybe for all other chemists, and having the courage to go out from chemist, which is a technical profession, to sales. And we all know in HR how sometimes it's so difficult for people to transition from technical roles to sales and marketing roles, and then moreover to an entrepreneur, business owner role. Can you imagine that? Wendy, can you help me get these people join the conversation? Because I'm going to throw out a question to the audience. There might be somebody out there right now who's not totally happy with where he or she is at work, as Lulu was many years ago, and is dreaming of something different, but cannot quite get the courage to say, okay, I'm gonna do this, right? And if you're that person, or if you know somebody like that, and you have a question about how do I get started, you have a panel of consultants here for free for this afternoon who can help you in that journey that you would undertake. So while you're thinking about that, Wendy will be going around to check who might want to share her story as well or her struggle, and we'll see how we can make you part of this conversation. Let's talk about that difficult part in the journey when you would almost want to give up, or you almost thought, can I even get started? Can I even be part of this dream of putting something big out there and wanting to see it successful? Was there a time when you wanted to give up and said, okay, that's it? Like, I can imagine, Kathleen, you're so young. Anytime you want to give up, you will have a lot of people say, okay, we can employ you. So that's always an option for you. Is there such a time when you would have thought of doing that?
Yeah, so before I was an entrepreneur, I actually had a very successful career going as a delinquent student. And it got so bad that I had to repeat a year. And the teachers took my mom aside and they told her, you know, Kathleen's not smart enough to hack it in this school. You might consider moving her to another school. So I was all for it. I was like, okay, Mom, I'm ready. And basically, my mom basically gave me one of the most important lessons in my life early on. She told me, when you're down, you don't leave the game. You keep trying. You keep moving, you keep working, and you keep moving forward. And that was the lesson I carried in my experience as an entrepreneur. I mean, there was a time when I had to make a choice between eating and running my business. There was a time when I had to make a choice between paying rent and paying my employees. And every time I was faced with those difficult choices, it always came back to the idea that I don't see myself doing anything else. And part of the reason why I really enjoy myself doing what I do is because I'm not really an entrepreneur to earn money or become famous. I'm here because I enjoy the journey. I enjoy the process of solving problems. I enjoy talking to clients. I enjoy the process of building technology that helps clients. And once I got that understanding that it's the process I love, that I wasn't working towards a particular outcome, it was like everything came together. And the failures, the pains, it stopped mattering as much. It just became part of the adventure.
Okay. Actually, Kathleen, I don't know if you want to share this with the audience, but I believe you wrote an article in Youngblood recently, right, at the Philippine Daily Enquirer. I actually read that article where you talked about a very personal struggle that you were going through at that time. Are you comfortable to share that with them?
Over a few drinks, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see. Does somebody up there have any alcohol to give Kathleen out here? But yeah, take a look. If you want to search what it is that she had to go through, but she's still here with us, it's something for you to research and discover. You know, going back to Bambi, if you're talking about, you know, because she was a chemist and you were just the baby and then the toddler and the kid tagging along. Lulu mentioned something about brainwashing you or pulling you out and making you work with her. But again, choices are not, you know, forever. You could actually also decide to go on your own. But what made you decide to keep on? And yeah, was there ever a time when you wanted to say, ayoko na?
Of course. I think in every entrepreneurial journey, or any journey for that matter, comes to a point where you reach a crossroad. And I would meet mine almost, there came a time almost every day or almost every month. I would say, is this the kind of future that I want to live? And is this the kind of dream that I want to live? Or am I just living the dream of my mom? And oftentimes I would ask myself, and the thing that changes my mind is the fact that I have found what I call my niche, is that I'm able to reach out whenever I would also speak with my team, and they would reach out back to me, and they would give me feedback about the market and how we are developing this change and how we are changing the whole image of the business, because the industry itself is very conservative, rooted in chemical analysis. There are formulas, there are ways to do it, and we're revolutionizing it with our equipment. It makes me realize the kind of change that I am giving back. And when I embraced that and not be drowned by the whole ego, is this my dream, whether my dream is this or whatever, I was free. I was free, and I embraced the decision that I made, and I could see the influence that I have now with my two daughters, who look up to me, and they take on the kind of behavior and attitude that I think I show. So that is inspirational to me as well, to continue. That there are four eyes, there are two sets of eyes looking back at me and saying, I am creating this future for them as well. So there's that legacy, other than the dream that started by my mom and now I'm continuing, but creating a new generation, a new set of legacy that I have to fulfill.
Yeah, two things I wanted to highlight from what you said, which really struck me. Number one is making sure that this is a dream that is also now owned by you and not simply a dream that you're trying to live out of a sense of duty or a sense of obligation to Lulu. So owning the dream. And then the second thing you mentioned was putting aside ego, right? It's no longer about just creating something, but looking at where that endeavor might take you and what it can give to others, which is pretty much what you were saying also earlier. For so many of us in the corporate world, sometimes we think in terms of success, in terms of our positions, our titles, our salary, how we are becoming more competitive, more marketable, more piratable. And some of us would say, oh, my dream would be one day to own a business. And still so much of it is tied, I would say, to ego of who we want to be. And then when you get there, at some point you see that it's not about me. How did that turning point happen? Was there ever a time when you wanted to give up and say, okay, never mind, I'll just be something else? Yeah.
Okay, mine's a personal story, and I'm okay to share. In 2006, our business was only 6 years old. My husband, who set up the business with me, co-founder of the business, he fell ill. And unfortunately, it was a terminal case. I didn't realize how bad it was. I got out of the business to look after him. I didn't hire a nurse, I just looked after him. In 2007, unfortunately, my husband passed away. When I looked after my husband, we went to Singapore for the treatments. So I left the business with my right hand and my COO. So when I came back to the business, I didn't actually realize how bad it was. So my husband just passed away. I came into the business, back into the business. I realized, wow, our collection was so bad. We had no new clients. Our business was so stale. And I looked at my 3 kids. At that point in my life, my youngest was 1, my middle was 5, and my eldest was 9. And I realized, do I really want to do this? Do I want to be in this business? Or can I just have the safety net of a corporation, go and work for a corporation and get my salary? And one thing I realized is, being vulnerable is actually good. What do I mean by this? When it's about ego, it's all about you. But if it's about the welfare of everyone that you're thinking about, it changes. And I asked my team, and I brought them into the picture because as far as I'm concerned, this is not just about me, it's about them too. So I brought them together and I said, guys, this is the current situation. We are in the red. It is very, very bad. I'm a mother of 3, as you all know, Brendan just passed away. What do we do with the business? And it was so surprising. Because of that, they all rallied around me. And they said, you know, Trixie, we can do this. Because I told them, I cannot do this alone. I can only do this if I am with the right people who want to move forward. And so with that side of, it's not easy to talk in front of people and really show, your scars. But what I learned was, when you show them you're human, when you show them your vulnerability, they're there to help. Because they realize what you're trying to do for the business. It's like my business, I don't treat it like a medal. I treat it like a child. I have 3 children, And you can ask each one of them, what's important to us is our values. I don't talk to them about legacy in terms of, I'm going to give you this is for you, I'm putting this in the bank for you. We don't talk about those things. We talk about values. What have you learned? What can you apply? And the same thing for me. I want my children to fly. I don't want to live their lives for them. I want them to live their own life and fly. Same with my business. I want my business to fly. Regardless whether I'm there or not, I want it to be sustainable. It goes beyond me. So, and my people are like my family, and they knew this. And so they gave me the strength. Because I'm part of this group, right? I'm part of the system. So I wanted them, and they were part of my system. If we do this together, I can do it, right? We can do it together. So in 2007 and 2008, we were in the red. 2009, I hired Sarah. 2010, we were in the red. We were in the black, right? 2011, PMAP gave us a huge award by calling us Employer of the Year for SME. And in 2012, I'm so proud to say that we bought our own floor, 1,000 square meters. You know, it's not a big thing, but it's big for me. We moved on our 12th year on the 12th floor in 2012.
Wow, congratulations.
And we're the only IIP Platinum, by the way, in the Philippines so far. So, yes, there's a lot of heartache, but one thing I realized as an entrepreneur, it's not so bad if you show vulnerability.
Showing vulnerability and drawing on the power of your team. I think that's what you're saying, which actually applies for all of us leaders. For us to succeed in what we do, it's never about us carrying the ball on our own, but really drawing on the power of the people who work with us. Wendy's, there's somebody out there who wants to ask a question?
None at the moment. Well, with the question that you threw a while ago, I think everybody's happy with where they are and not thinking of building their own company yet.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So what about Lulu? In that long journey, when you weren't sure whether Bernadette would want to succeed you or not, did you ever have a time when you wanted to give up?
Yeah, she was then just newly graduate from college, and I'm ready to give up the company. And I asked her if she likes the company or not. Otherwise, I'll just stop the operation because I don't have any other person to handle the business if she would decide to employ herself. So I gave her the options or the decision if she wants to join the company or not. And then when she said, yes, I'll be joining the company, but not totally embracing it, I have to be patient. Probably the virtue of patience ran in my blood for about 2 to 3 years before she embraced that she will lead the company. So it's openness between the two of us, what she would like to do, because I cannot also, just like you, I want her to fly. I mean, you know, it's not my life anymore. I'm done. I'm done sending her to school, giving her a good education, but it's her life now. She has her family and 2 daughters. Me, I'm just going to the gate that I'm ready to fly somewhere else. So I asked her, okay, it's your decision now where to lead the company. I'll be at your back, and if you want some advice from me, I'll do that. So it's easy for us to adjust to each other.
Right. You know, you're talking about where you will fly next, Lulu. You know, it just occurred to me, PMAP has a large body of members who are actually small to medium-sized enterprise businesses. And these are people who are still starting, getting their companies off the ground. I'm sure they would welcome somebody like you, Lulu, in the mentorship groups if you're willing to offer your time and the lessons that you've learned through the years. It could be a very fulfilling journey.
Sure.
Sure, sure, really for sure.
I-
I'm volunteering you to volunteer. So, yeah.
My journey with my daughter, having her in the company, I just, for myself, I just be open to the possibilities, all the possibilities of what will gonna happen to the company. Because it's not me, it's not the founder who will control everything until the end of life of the company. It's the one who will, the one who will lead it in the future. The succession is very important for the success of the company. You have to prepare the person way ahead of time to make sure that the company will live longer.
Right, and I think when you talk about succession planning, that actually speaks to all of us in all corporations, because whatever we do, whether we're corporate people or we're entrepreneurs, there's a much bigger world out there that whatever we do have to accomplish, and for that we need to prepare our future successors. Looking back now and thinking of advice that you would give, perhaps, well, for Lulu and Trixie, maybe to your younger selves, and for Kathleen and Bambi, maybe to younger people out there in the audience, what would that advice be? If you could look back and say, talk to your 35-year-old self, what would you have said to that person? Or to your, well, I have to go back more years in the case of Trixie, maybe your 30-year-old self or 25-year-old self, what would you have told that person? And for Kathleen, I don't know if there's anyone out there whom you feel like, okay, to other young people like you, what would be that advice that you would give them? When we talk about success as leaders, persevering through obstacles, for the mothers here, a lot of your theme has been about simply wanting to do something for your daughter, earning something and giving something to your children. I mean, that seems to be core to us as women, especially if we're mothers, and that is what has driven you. Who's going for this one? Yeah.
Okay. I never really understood, well, I did when I was younger. I come from a Catholic, I was educated in a Catholic way, yeah. And my mom kept on saying, what I can give you is values. What I can give you is values, right? A good education and good values. It's funny because that's exactly what I'll say now. Because the values that are shared and the values that have been given to me is the backbone of where I am now. I would say keep that thirst for learning. I think learning is an amazing thing, especially in the world of IA where artificial intelligence might just take over the world, they say, soon. But I don't believe that they will take over the world because humans evolve faster than anyone else. And that thirst for learning will ensure that we don't become obsolete. So number one, thirst for learning. Number two, be who you are. Be true to yourself. I call it be cool. Be cool means you're not pretentious. Be cool means you are not, being who you really are. To me, making a mark. Don't be afraid to make a mark. Just be out there and make a mark because that's about legacy. What you do matters. Fourth one is go bold. As an entrepreneur, that's how I live my life. Otherwise, I'll always be constantly afraid of will I do this? Oh no, what will other people say about me? And lastly is trust and respect. The only way is to be able to trust people and people to trust you. But in order for that trust to happen, there should be respect. So those are my key value statements, by the way. So that's also very EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which I belong to, which is a global organization. So, yeah.
Right. Okay, what about Lulu? Advice to your younger self.
I would say that first is believe in yourself. You really have to believe on your capabilities. And next is conquer your fear, because sometimes this fear hinders your success. Whether we are in both field of science and we don't even know what is management and marketing, but we keep on, learning things which we don't have. That's the key to success. You don't underestimate yourself that you are a graduate of a science and you are not, you're not capable of doing other knowledge like marketing and management. Explore. Knowledge is the key to success. And third is you have to focus on your strength. Focus on your strength, and that strength will lead you somewhere. And lastly is, we women are too emotional. This emotion sometimes hinder our success. In this era, in the Philippines, women should be tough, because I think we are more, the way I say, sorry for men, more powerful than men.
All right. Okay, I don't know if somebody out there, one of the males in the audience, would like to react to that. Kathleen, advice to your younger self? Or advice to young people out there?
Most people, when you ask them the question, what do you do? We can easily answer it. I'm an HR practitioner, or I'm an entrepreneur. When you ask them how they do what they do, some people can answer, others not so much. But when you ask somebody, why do you do what you do, not many people can answer it. Most of us don't have a clear idea of why we're here and what's our purpose. Why do we do the things we do? And a lot of what Trixie said actually resonated with me. Once you run after why you're here and why you do what you do, that's when values are important. Because the values are there to guide you to what you're willing to do to get that clarity of why. So if I would give advice to someone, actually I just tell them, keep trying, keep making mistakes. You're always gonna make mistakes. It's not something that can be avoided. And they're always gonna be painful. They're painful because you care about them. And when you care about them, you're basically living that experience, and there's nothing that can replace that experience of pain, because once you understand what it's like to have that pain, the more you can appreciate when you're on top of the world and you're getting all that success. The more you can understand that to get to this point, I had to go through that pain first. But they're two sides of the same coin. And essentially what it all means is you have a life, and as long as you're alive, you have the opportunity to keep getting better and to keep trying. And as you keep trying, you improve on your values, you improve on your ideas, you improve on your concept of what it means to be where you are. And that's what it means to always be growing and to always be getting better. For me, there's no one blueprint for everybody to follow, whether HR or entrepreneur or business person. But we all have these concepts that we can use to find what's true for us and what makes the most sense to us. And it's the process that's important, because it's the process that helps you discover what's going to be true for you and what's going to make you happy.
So being clear about your values, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, and conquering your fears, and overcoming emotions when they block us from moving forward. Last call for questions, Mindy? You have somebody out there? Oh yeah, please go ahead, Angela.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, that thing you mentioned about managing emotions. Could you please share us some tips? I think that would be very valuable for the entire audience here. Thank you.
Okay, sabi ni Lulu, me? You could almost see her, me?
In my journey in running my business, there are a lot of things happened. Emotions means, I just want to tell a story. Because of the business I had, my family, I had this breakup with my husband, and I have this entitlement issue with my siblings because I employ them in my company. Because of this, I was so devastated at the time, and instead of the business going fast and growing fast, I stopped and dwell on my emotion, not minding what's going on, what will gonna happen to my business. That's why, and also that emotion, you would always think of what other people say to you. So if you will embrace that thing in yourself, you cannot think properly, you cannot move properly, and that's how you block your growth and success in your life. It impedes you on growing up. So, and women is normally emotional person because we are a mother and we earn money for the family. So, that's why I said we are more powerful than men. Men just work for money. Us, we work for money and then go home. We make our family steady, stay put, and the values, we were the one assigned to that. So, yeah.
Managing your emotions. Come to think of it, whenever we look at leadership competencies, we say self-mastery is the first competency of a leader.
Sorry, would it be all right just to add something?
Okay.
I was reading something about Zen, and they said something about positive thinking, Western positive thinking being the bane of all philosophies. Like, positive thinking doesn't work. What the Zen master said basically was that you take the positive with the negative and you treat it as a balance of both, that life is always going to have a balance of both. But just to add to that, I mean, having emotions and feeling emotions, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing because the emotion attaches us to the work we do. It makes it more meaningful. But I think it's important to recognize as well when an emotion is constructive and when it's destructive. And recognizing that means, of course, the emotional mastery, but also learning how to control how you react to certain experiences.
Yeah, certainly words of wisdom. We'll need to wrap up the conversation, so I'll give the last 30 seconds to Bambi, Bernadette, to share advice to your younger self. Yeah.
Well, valuable lessons from my other co-panelists. The main word that comes to mind is, it might sound counterintuitive, but to slow down. Or in the words today, it's called being mindful. Each of us has our own individual journey, and to experience it 1 minute, one day at a time is very, very valuable. And to feel that whether you're still struggling in the process of entrepreneurship journey, or you're already in the pinnacle of your leadership, or towards the retirement stage, to feel it, to embrace it, I think it's very, very valuable. I remember I wanted to so much to be in a position that I forget the journey that was, and I overlooked a lot of the learnings that I could have picked up from had I tried to slow down and really digest all these lessons that I get from global leaders and other interactions that I had. That could have been very powerful now. So to all of you in all of our journey, I think it would be best to really try to take it one day at a time and enjoy it.
Those are great words. On that note, let's wrap up our session. And I'd say, I certainly hope that your silence has meant that you're really absorbing all of these things that are being shared with us. To many of us, to come to a session like this is really time spent away from what we do. And I take from Bernadette's word that this is really a time for us to slow down, be mindful of what we're doing, where we're going, where we want to go next in our journey as leaders, women in the workplace as well as men in the workplace. But really somewhere down the road, as Sheryl Sandberg says, we will not talk anymore about women leaders or male leaders. There will simply just be leaders in the workplace, which is each one of us today. Thank you very much. Let's give a big hand to our panel.
Thank
Bernadette
you.
Sia, Lulu De Los Reyes from Gilburn Corporation, Trixie White from Q2 HR Solutions, and Kathleen Yu from Rumaracket. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, just stay on the stage there for a moment. Just stay there just for one moment because we have to thank you properly. I'd like to call Michelle, our president, onto the stage, and also to help her, Miss Adina Loomis, to come on stage to help with the presentation of our gratitude. What a fabulous. It's been a fabulous afternoon, actually, I think. Awesome was the word of the day. I'd also like to remind everyone to stay till the end. There is going to be a special raffle at the latter end of the afternoon while they're launching the conference that will be happening later in the year. So stay seated if you want to be part of the raffle. You can only be here, you can only win it if you're in it. So I'd like have we got everything to come on stage? I think they're just making sure that they have enough. Oh, I need to take a picture, hang on. So please come up on stage and say thank you, ladies.
Today's GMM was brought to you by the International Affairs Committee, headed by our trustee in charge, Ms. Dina Loomis, to share our tokens of appreciation for our panel discussants.
And I'm sure we'd like to take one big group photograph.
Okay, yeah.
I know I would. I have my camera ready.
One last photo here, Trustee Dina, maybe, yeah, you might want to come here.
There we go. Okay. Leaders smile.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay. So we're nearly there. What a fantastic afternoon. I think every speaker has completely hit the nail on the head. So at this point, while the gentlemen are clearing off our stage again, I'd like to call up on stage the chairperson of the membership committee, Miss Lily G. Gintans. Did I get that right? And she's going to do a little bit of the afternoon to welcome our new members and our regularization of members. So is Lily in the room? Is she ready to come up on stage? Oh, stage left. I've always wanted to say that. Enter stage left. Welcome. Big round of applause. Come on, let's keep the energy going for the afternoon.
No mic over there, so I had to cross the stage. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the membership committee, I am proud to present this afternoon 12 new members We have both corporate and individual members. So may I request our new members to please rise and stay on this side of the stage, and please come up as I call your name or your company's name. So I'd like to start off with the corporate members. May I call in Ampleon Philippines? May I call on stage Ampleon Philippines Incorporated, AMRC Holdings Company Incorporated, Maplecrest Group Incorporated, National Confederation of Cooperatives, NCH Customer Support Services Incorporated. It's all right. Let us occupy the stage. PDC Asia Pacific Incorporated. Sprout Solution Philippines Incorporated. And Vireef Digital Incorporated. And for our individual members, may I call on Ms. Christine de Guzman, Ms. Maria Izanina Magpantay, and Mr. Leomar John Chavez. Okay, so here are our new members, my dear co-PMAPers. So may I please, at this point, I would like to call on stage our past president, Mr. Jesse Rebustillo, for the charging of our new members.
Good afternoon, Lily. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yes, oo. Pwede bang bumati? Babatiin ko si Bonnie. Nawala na tuloy. Anyway, what is it that you have? You always have your cell phones with you, di ba? What goes with the cell phone? A bell. What goes with the cell phone? We're all HR people. And you know, as HR, di ba? Practitioner, professional people, ay ang hirap kaya when you call somebody during your phone interview, hello, this is Jessie. Sorry ma'am, lubat po. So, that means that your cell phone must always be charged. So that is my duty now, to charge these people here upstairs. Just like your cell phone, they have to be charged. And then you have to answer me with your loudest voices. What is the answer, Lily? Yes. A resounding yes. Do you pledge to maintain your membership in good standing by complying with all rules, regulations, or directives of the PMAP? Ay, magagalit si Commissioner Kim po. I will repeat the question. Mahirap kasi complying with all the rules. Diba? VUCA, you don't have to actually comply, but we are being asked to comply. Again, do you pledge to maintain your membership in good standing by complying with all rules, regulations, or directives of the PMAP? Yes. Good. Do you pledge to uphold the creed and code of ethics of the PMAP and to practice all the principles that the PMAP shall enunciate or promulgate? Yes. Do you pledge to attend all meetings, of the PMAP, whether annual, regular, special, or committee meetings, and to vote on any matter referred to you by the PMAP whenever voting is necessary for any action that the PMAP shall take? Yes. Do you pledge, oh, I love this, and this is for all. Do you pledge to pay your annual dues and other assessment. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, PP Jesse. Now, at this point, I would like to call on stage our treasurer, Ms. Jocelyn Pick, to lead our new members through the oath taking.
Okay. Thank you. So I will ask each one of you to please raise your right hand and
may I request the body to please stand up to add solemnity to the occasion. Thank you.
yeah, so to give solemnity to the occasion, let's everybody stand up. And I would ask our new members to please raise their right hand. So you could say, each one of you, sacred oath of office. So can you please repeat after me? I, state your name, state your company, recognize and accept the responsibility incumbent upon me as member of the People Management Association of the Philippines. I pledge myself to perform the tasks of my position in accordance with the PMAP Constitution and bylaws, and to be faithful to the traditions of our founding fathers, to observe and maintain high standards of performance in the practice of the people management profession, to uphold and protect the principles and objectives for which the association was founded, and to attend all meetings and deliver all results expected of me on time and in the highest standards of excellence. In discharging these obligations, I impose upon myself these responsibilities willfully and conscientiously. And with zeal and dedication, without purpose of evasion. So help me God. And you may now sign this. Let's give them all a warm applause. And if I may ask the Board of Trustees to please come up and pin their pins of membership
much and congratulations again. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Well done for being regularized.
Have two. Okay, so I know that we're now competing with the food, which is always challenging. I've been very lucky, it's been served to me, and it looks delicious. I'm not surprised you're all queuing, but don't leave the room because we're coming to the final part of the afternoon, and I'd like to bring up onto stage the PMAP Vice President and 2018 Conference Chair. And I can tell you organising a conference is not easy, so give all the support you can. Ms. Michelle G. Gousset for the launching of this year's conference. Round of applause, even if you're queuing for your food. Come on.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Welcome.
I'd like to copy your English, but I can't. Yes. So you're having your food. Enjoy your food. Yeah, and I know that's quite hard to launch the AC now that you're enjoying your food. But maybe first, we show you the video of the AC so that while you're lined up there, you can enjoy, as well the video of the annual conference for 2018. So let's play the video first. So there you have it. Did you guess what the AC theme is going to be? Of course, it's focus. And before talking to you about the details, this afternoon, or can we have it now, Carol? We're actually raffling one free registration to the annual conference today. So this is an electronic raffle. Okay, and it's an electronic raffle. If you register there online, your name should be here. You have to be present here to win this. And if you win it, you come. You cannot transfer the registration. So this is free registration to the annual conference happening on October 10, 11, and 12, 2018. So, random raffling, ready na? Get set, go! Wow! So, Carmencita San Diego Santos, are you here? There you are. So we have you as one of the first participants or registered participants to the annual conference this year. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Women's Day to all of the gorgeous women around the room. Do you feel happy? Do you feel gorgeous this month? Happy Women's Month pala. So I hope that we still have a few days left to enjoy Women's Month, and I hope for those who are married here, I hope you are also enjoying one of the few days in our lives that we feel like we're special, diba? So it's time to get out of Manila. I know you have been, we have been touring around Manila for the monthly GMM. I'm not sure if we're going to go north sometime this year, but we have been moving around Manila, different hotels in Manila for our general membership meeting. But it's time to get out of Manila and have a comfortable, convenient trip to the north of Luzon. Not so far, but yes, not very near. That is Clark, Pampanga. So that's the ASEAN Convention Center. It's called the ASEAN Convention Center because that's where the ASEAN was held. So pang international ang level natin, no? And it houses more than 1,500 participants. So we hope to have the highest number of participants this year because we are designing an annual conference that will give you an experience of festival, no? Festival of learning. Not just a festival of food that, of course, Pampanga can bring. Who among you are Kapampangan here? Because if you're not, then that's the best time to go. Best time to also enjoy the Kapampangan food. No? So we're gonna have it there. I am just this morning, I got the commitment of our Pampanga chapter that they will be helping us host the annual conference. So imagine what the local Kapampangan can bring. So make sure you bring your maintenance medicines when you go there. Yes. So, but what I am excited about is the gathering of the seasoned people managers. This is how this gathering can draw out a rich exchange of ideas and solutions with the hope of generating a resolution. It's not just a usual annual conference. It's going to be different in a way that we will collaborate. Again, it's focused. We talk about future. We talk about the future. We see the future as the golden age of HR. And that is why through an outside-in approach, we will bring people together from all walks of life, all disciplines, to collaborate and unify, to create programs that can be sustainable for all. What we're really looking at and what we're excited about is research that we will be publishing during the conference. So we talk about the Filipino worker experience. And this, we need your help. We'll have all of you there contributing, and hopefully, together, we can actually solve one of the pain points, or at least some few pain points of that Filipino workers' experience as they work, di ba? I'm not sure if that's going to be traffic in Manila, no? But one of the pain points, we gather together to solve a pain point. So as it's going to be also coming together for an advocacy for the HR. So we use 3 lenses. We look at the individual employee, we look at the collective Filipino worker experience, and the emerging role of HR now as master designer. So there's going to be a blend of soft and hard, no? We have art as design, and the future where we bring in robotics. It will be experiential. We hope to bring robotics there. You get to experience putting your hand on a machine, and they already assess your personality and IQ, no? So, and maybe interacting with robots as well. So it's an experiential and interactive conference. Just for today, we already have 30 registered, plus one registered participants. So if you're in today and write your registration or submit your registration form, you have this with you, the flyers with you. Submit the registration form, and you'll have the early bird discount already. That's 14,000. So we really hope to see you there during the annual conference. At the same time, we want to publish again our call for presentations. We are opening this to everybody, our partners within PMAP or outside of PMAP, because we want to hear from you. we have already, part of your flyers, we have included there our topics, the topics we'd like to talk about. And if you have presentations that relate to these topics, kindly submit them to us. So we're open to hearing from you. We're open to getting case studies, local case studies as well, to present during the annual conference. So that's it. We want to see you. We want to see you at the annual conference happening on October 10, 11, and 12, 2018 at the ASEAN Convention Center in Clark, Pampanga. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The conference is going out of town. How exciting. We don't have to get on a plane. So has it been an exciting afternoon and an interesting afternoon for everyone? I know you're eating, so just nod your heads. Can you nod your heads if you think the afternoon has been interesting? Thank you. So I think we've learned some things this afternoon. We've definitely learned from the teams that we've had on the stage that we need to keep moving forward as leaders. Never give up. Persistency is the key. And don't be afraid to show your vulnerability and put your hands out if you need help. And I think we can all agree as women leaders, as just been mentioned, we have a few days left that we can call our own in this month. We can, we will, but we already do. So I'd like to call on to close today's general membership, the 634th general membership. Call back on stage President Michelle C. Garcia to close the meeting this afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah. Before we formally end our meeting, I'd like to invite everyone to help us improve our future GMMs by participating in an evaluation, and we will do it right now. Total, you're still eating, and I'm very sure you don't want to go yet, right? Because we will still have our opportunity for meeting new friends, networking, etc. So, may I invite everybody to please get your mobile phones and go to www.menti.com. And once you are inside menti.com, please type in 142452. And you will have this question, and the first question is, the topic of our GMM this month is relevant and useful in my work. So just click yes or no. All right, so that's www.menti.com, and then type in code 142452, and please answer if our topic this month is relevant and useful in your work. So it's just a yes and a no, yes or no. So we now have 5, 9, 10 members replying, 11 members replying. So again, menti.com, 142452. All right, so we'll still give everyone a minute. I hope you're enjoying your food while you're trying to log in. Ma'am, kamusta ang food? Okay naman po?
Very good.
Nag-iikot talaga. Sige po, so 30 more seconds. So this group, are you okay? Okay po, talagang sabi. Concentrating on the food. Ayan. So we now have 24 respondents, so maraming salamat. The next question and the last question is, on the next slide, which part of our GMM today you appreciated the most? So in a scale of 1 to 4, of course 4 being the highest, just rank topic, food, which you're having right now, the venue, and the people you've met today. So scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the highest, please rate and rate each of those important elements of our GMM. So again, we will be using this evaluation to help us improve our future GMMs, because our intention is to make good use of your time each time you attend a PMAP event. And I think this is one way for us to have that feedback and improve further our GMM sessions. Okay, 36 na, dami. So please continue answering. Enjoy the food, enjoy the friends, enjoy PMAP, enjoy the afternoon. So I now officially adjourned our 634 General Membership Meeting. Magandang hapon po.